Well, I had my doubts about certain dogmas, but I put them aside as a youngster, and I thought perhaps I'm not smart enough because I didn't get any answers when I asked these questions to the ministers. And after a few years and years later, to be more specific, of course, I was there writing my anti-Islam book, but I wanted to explain it from a Christian perspective. So I made a comparison between the God concept in Christianity and the God concept in Islam. So I made this comparison, but while writing about Christianity, my doubts popped up again in a certain way. So the doubts I had and which I put aside for many years, they popped up again. And now I was reading the concept of God in Islam, and it made much more sense. It was much more logical. And of course, because I studied comparative religion, I knew about the concept of God and the whole concept of religion in Islam compared to Christianity. But I never questioned it as an alternative for the truth with a capital T, because of course I was a practicing Christian, so I believed in Christianity. But now, while writing the book, and I was a little bit older, with those doubts I had about the dogmas of Christianity, I read it in a different way and I start questioning it. And I got a lot of Islamic answers to my Christian questions. And of course, that didn't feel very nice, especially because I was an anti-Islamic politician. Active still, because I was still in parliament, but I wanted to make sure that the book was correct, because I thought, well, when I publish this anti-Islam book, it has to be correct. Well, a lot of people will attack me, of course, if there is a little fault, so I thought it has to be correct. So what I did was writing to several authorities on Christianity, Judaism, because part one of the Bible is the Jewish Bible, and also Islam, because I was writing this book in a comparison between Christianity and Islam. And one of the people I wrote to was Abdul Hakim Murad, Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad from Cambridge University. And well, he started explaining me some things about the core of Islam, and he advised me to read certain articles, certain books. I wrote to several people. So that's what I did. And during this search for more information, my whole attitude towards Islam changed bit by bit. So where I started writing my anti-Islam book with all these ideas that Islam was anti-Christianity, anti-women, anti-whatever, it was very negative. But gaining more information, it started changing the way I looked at Islam. So where I started writing my anti-Islam book, at a certain moment it changed into a search for truth, a search for information, and of course I ended up becoming a Muslim. But that had mainly to do with the fact that the information that I had wasn't correct. And of course there are a lot of books, and like I said, I studied comparative religion, so there's a lot of information in the West, but most of the information about Islam is written, especially in academia, is written by non-Muslims. So non-Muslims writing about Islam. And of course there's this history and the tradition where the Islamic world and the Western world are in a way competing with each other. So most of the information was biased. And Abdul Hakim Murad advised me to read Islamic sources and not so much Western sources about Islam. So I was writing, and I changed the way I gained information. So where I first started writing about Islam with the information I had from the Western scholars, and a lot of people are biased, and of course not everybody, but a lot of them, especially in a historical sense. And after a while, I started I changed the way of collecting information. So I was now also looking at the Islamic sources and the Islamic scholars. So that changed my perception of Islam in big time, because I saw the way, like the inner perspective of Islam. So I saw what Muslims believed.